the story is sad, that for sure, you know.
Yeah.
But his voice brings you to the right place in your heart, so that this is part of the history.
Tanse nitotamak, ninaoma iskwē, and welcome back to the Chesterfield. Today I'm going to be speaking with a legend in Canadian film. Alanis Obomsawin has made more than 50 documentaries. She's been called the mother of Indigenous cinema, and for more than 50 years she's been telling essential stories from Indigenous communities. Her 1993 documentary, Kanesatake, 270 Years of Resistance, won Best Canadian Feature Film at the Toronto International Film Festival, making Alanis the first Canadian woman director to win that award. Her latest film, Jordan River Anderson, The Messenger, is about the battle for First Nations and Inuit children to receive the same standard of social, health, and educational services as the rest of the Canadian population. Throughout her career, Alanis has worked closely with the National Film Board and has chosen an NFB short film to talk about today.
It's 1821. Today a Blackfoot soul is born. Crowfoot, Crowfoot, why the tears? You've been a brave man for many years.
I'm honored to speak with her about Willie Dunn's The Ballad of Crowfoot, Canada's first music video. Before the interview, I want to let you know we have a special prize package from the NFB to give away. Just click the website link in the video description to visit Friends of Canadian Broadcasting. Now, please welcome from Montreal, Alanis Obomsawin. And please don't mind my French.
Bonjour, Alanis. Moi, j'appelle iskwē et puis je suis tellement nerveuse et aussi grateful, je ne sais pas comment on dit ça en français, mais grateful pour avoir le temps de parler avec vous aujourd'hui.
Si c'est mieux pour vous en anglais, on peut le faire en anglais.
J'ai besoin d'essayer la français aussi.
Okay.
But thank you. I'm so honored to be speaking with you today. We are going to be spending time today talking about your selection on an inspirational piece of Canadian art. Would you care to tell us what your selection is?
It's a film that Willie Dunn did quite a long time ago. It was one of the first films that was made by an Indigenous person at the National Film Board. Mm-hmm. And it's called The Ballad of Crowfoot. Mm-hmm. And it's done with words that he composed, the song for this famous chief, Crowfoot. Mm-hmm. It's very beautiful. It also gives you, through his singing, which is a beautiful voice, and images of the continuity of the wars and the land that's being lost, and especially out west. And it's very thoughtful and very beautiful. Mm-hmm. And this is why I chose it. Willie Dunn was part of composing so many songs, mm-hmm. so much he's given us. And his voice is fabulous also.
Yeah. So
I wanted to honor Willie and tell people, if you have not seen this short film, you should look at it.
Absolutely. It was a beautiful piece. I will admit I hadn't seen it until this opportunity came up, and I was quite emotional when I was watching it, and to see the imagery of, I'm from Manitoba, I'm from Treaty 1, and I'm Cree and Métis from Treaty 1, to see both the representation of the prairies in general, to see like the Blackfoot Nation and Crowfoot, and then also to see members of, Manitoba and Saskatchewan, like the prairies overall. Like it was quite a powerful thing to connect to and to see. And for folks who are interested, it is available to watch still on the National Film Board's website.
His contribution to our people through his singing and what he sang about is so beautiful.
You're seeing elements of struggle and war and tribulations and so on, but lyrically, as the song progressed, what is deemed Canada's first music video, as it progresses, there's a sense of almost empowerment or some sort of vision for the future. Would you agree?
Yes, I think there's so much feeling in it, in every word that he's written.
Mm-hmm.
And those images is so powerful.
Mm-hmm.
Crowfoot was a very important chief at that time.
Absolutely.
And the history is so sad and so much destruction of our people.
Right.
But he really brings it out in an honoring way, I think.
Yeah. How did you feel when you saw it for the first time?
Oh, I was, you feel like crying when you see all this. At the same time, it's so well respected and it's so well, the story is sad, that for sure, you know.
Yeah.
But his voice brings you to the right place in your heart, that this is part of the history.
Yeah.
Yes.
Did it inspire any of your creative footing?
Well, my main fight was education. Mm-hmm. I wanted to get those books out of the classroom that was so damaging to our people for so many generations. And I thought the changes will come by the children hearing a different story. This is the way I thought, and this is the way I did all my work. What
did the Indian Film Crew Project mean to you at the time?
Oh, it was wonderful. Yeah. It was wonderful to see that possibility to train and become part of a crew. And they did a lot of wonderful things. Mm-hmm. And they learned a lot. And not all of them remain making films or doing that kind of work. But what they did and what they learned at that time was very important. The possibility,
Yeah.
Yes.
It feels like a very forward-thinking initiative of the National Film Board to establish this crew or this collective in 1968, when only 8 years prior, Indigenous people were given the right to vote. Like, it seems like, you know, such a quick turnaround. And considering this is something that really stood out to me when I saw that this was your selection, was that, you know, it took 12 years from the time that Parliament started talking about giving us the right to vote before we were actually given, I use quotations for that, given the right to vote. And then within a few years, the National Film Board jumps up, you know, like establishes this collective to represent, for Indigenous voices to represent themselves.
Yes, that was a fantastic, it was very much the time that Challenge for Change was very much at the front at the National Film Board. So there were fantastic people who were in charge of this project, and really caring and really want to hear the voice of those people that you don't usually. Yeah. And it was fantastic for our people to be part of this crew and to be able to learn and see the possibilities. It was great.
Did that allow for any changes for you? Like, was it a door that opened for Indigenous people, I guess is a bit more.
Well, it was for this group. For me, it was different.
Okay.
I was having a lot of hard times, but you know, it's nothing happens so easily, especially when you make changes like that. And I feel very happy that I've stayed there all this time, because it has come to a great place, and for our people to have a space and be respected. And all those films that have been made with all the different Indigenous people are so important.
Could you tell me a little bit more about why you were having a hard time?
Well, I think in those days, first of all, in general, it was really a man's world to make films, first thing. So women were sort of not at the front, really. And then I was so used to realize when I had trouble or racism or stuff that was going on, I always identified the fact that I was an Indigenous woman. Yeah. But then I also had to realize that being a woman was not very helpful.
Right.
I didn't know that being a woman was put down like that. So I also learned that and met a lot of strong women, a lot of incredible people that were part of making big changes. You know, we just had a Studio D was created at the film board. It was a woman studio, women maker, filmmaker studio. So that alone was a very big change. And it took time, but in my case, in the 80s, my life started to change. You know, I had a lot of difficulties in making the films that I wanted to make. And because it certainly wasn't the style of the NFB, what I was doing. And so there were problems there. But eventually I stopped being, having to fight all the time, and had to go and get my own money to make a film. The film board didn't give me money to make a film. I had to go raise money, and they would match what I would raise. So you can imagine in those days, I could only go to government agencies. And it was very, I found that so hard. And, you know, there were difficulties all around. But at the same time, there were some incredible, fantastic people who really helped me and supported me. And that's how I was able to do everything. You have a dog?
I do. She just startled me. Apparently a squirrel must be walking by outside or something. Since then, you've established such a massive repertoire of brilliant pieces and a name that is global. And I found that very interesting to, you know, to be, and that at the same time you were still a part of the National Film Board, right? So what was it that made you stay with them for so long?
The work that I could do, mainly the change that I could fight for and create at the classroom level. Because there was a studio at the time at the National Film Board. It was called Multimedia. And there, everything they did there through film strips was not 16. Was a project for the classroom, for the teacher to use for teaching. And for me, I found that was the most exciting thing, because I was working with a nation, and we'd go by what's most important to them. First, we would do the history, then different little films showing different traditions or culture. But, you know, the first time we had one of them ready was Manouan community here in Quebec. We celebrated. It was the first time we had a professional product in the classroom for the teacher to use, instead of this book, L'Histoire du Canada, that was so racist and was so danger to our people for so many generations. So now, just that for me, we had won something. To have enough respect to have a nation talk for themselves, tell the children what those stories are, and all kinds of beautiful things. This was why I stayed there so long.
How do you feel the landscape of Indigenous cinema has changed over the years?
Oh, there's a lot of changes. There's a lot of, everything is possible now. If you want to do whatever, I'm talking to young people now, whatever it is you have in your mind, in your heart, you feel it's honest, you feel it's right, you can do.
That is a beautiful thing about 2020, isn't it? It's filled with ups and downs, but at the end of it all, there is this opportunity that is quite unique to present day. And, you know, we have this landscape of kind of anything goes, but in that anything goes, there's space for us to share our stories in, you know, in new ways, in different ways, without the, without being, what's the word that I'm looking for? Contained or censored or whatnot.
Or told.
Or told.
That's what a story should be. It's not somebody else telling you what the story is. It's the people themselves telling their story.
Thank you for sharing not only your time with me and with us today, but for constantly and continuously being such a powerful, powerful voice for Indigenous people, but also for Indigenous women. There are a few women that have been able to make such an impact, Indigenous women who've made such strong impacts for, you know, generations coming up underneath, and you are 100% one of those women for me. So Ekosani for putting in all of that energy and strength and courage that it took to create that space, not only for the stories that you were telling presently, but also for all of the stories and voices for Indigenous filmmakers and artists and activists and everybody else coming up after you. So Ekosani.
Thank you very much. Don't forget that all these voices talk through me. It's them that I want to be heard, and it's beautiful.
Wonderful.
Thank you.
Thank you.